I would not use metformin. If you have a problem carving up because your pancreas can't produce enough insulin, and you're one of these people that needs to eat a lot of carbs, you should just take insulin. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, diet, training, supplementation, it is all there for the taking. We go right into questions. The first two questions on this show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question is a dilemma. Here is my dilemma. I naturally have really big legs and calves, but I have long, skinny arms. This is due to genetics. I can work out my legs one day a week and see major results. On the other hand, I work out my arms once or twice a week, and it takes forever to see any results. So, should I up my arm training at 3 times a week? Seems like I read that Arnold would do stuff like this back in the day on his weak body parts. Thoughts?
Yeah, I've answered this question before, but it warrants, I guess, repeating, because a lot of people have the same question. They just, and it's a natural instinct to think, you know what, I got a weak body part, let me train it more in the gym, right? Because let's face it, working out builds muscle. When you get home, you can actually see the muscles bigger than when you got there, right? Which is not true, obviously. You might have a pump when you go home. When you work out, you're breaking down muscle fibers. So you're actually tearing the muscle down. The more you work out, the more you tear it down. So a muscle that doesn't recover well and genetically is just not a good body part for you, as we say, is going to do worse if you train it more. Because now what you're doing is it already can't recover well. Now you're working it out more. And so what's going to happen invariably is it'll probably get smaller, which is usually the case. So what I find is that if you work a body part smarter, but still give it a full week to recover, you're going to get better results. So like I had a problem with my arms when I was coming up. My legs were great. I had good, shoulders. My back was pretty good. Arms, I had these long, long arms, and until my arms got to about 22 inches, they didn't even look big. Even at 20 inches, they didn't look big. So for me, that natural instinct was train more and more and more. And I remember watching reading a Vince Taylor article. I've told the story multiple times, and I forget what magazine it was. And he was saying that he does all cable work for arms, and he had some of the best arms of all time. Now, normally I wouldn't listen to someone who genetically has good arms, but it made sense what he was saying. He said that, by isolating the arm muscles, you can get them sometimes to grow better, because a lot of times using complex movements like close bench pressing, skull crushes, you're using other body parts and you're not really focusing on that muscle group, maybe just because biomechanically you can't. Now, I didn't try what he said until I actually had gotten over a shoulder injury. I had some arthroscopic surgery on my shoulder, and I had to come back really slowly. So I said, you know what, let me just do some cable stuff. I'll go real light. And I was getting some incredibly good pumps, and really it felt good. And then my arms were growing. It was the weirdest thing, because I wasn't even lifting heavy, but I was isolating. And on every movement, I was doing everything unilaterally, one arm at a time, because I had the one bad shoulder, one good shoulder. So I said to myself, I wonder if I should do this, during my regular season, once I'm feeling really good. And I continued doing it, and you know what? My arms grew. And so you got to find out what works for you, number one, and then don't overtrain the muscle. Overtraining the muscle is just like a total overcompensation mechanism that we all have. And we all want to do more and more and more and more and more. We think, all right, we haven't grown as much. We'll take double the amount of steroids. We'll grow more. And that never happens. You just get double the amount of side effects. So train smarter, maybe do less sets, more higher intensity, heavy weights, full range of motion, good form, and only do each body part once a week. That's my suggestion.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Question on metformin. Would this be useful in the carb phase the last few days before a contest? I've read 500 mg with meal 1 and meal 3 and 1000 mg at last meal before bed will fill up glycogen stores and will fill up the muscles nicely. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, let's look at what metformin does. I mean, metformin, the way it lowers blood sugar is that it stops the liver from producing or releasing glucose. So the liver is an organ that stores glycogen like the muscles do for times when the body needs to raise blood sugar. Sometimes the liver releases too much glucose during the day, and the pancreas can't keep up with it, and you run high blood sugar. So by reducing the output of glucose, the release of glucose from the liver, metformin can sometimes control blood sugar. Unfortunately, it's not really good at controlling blood sugar because what it does is it's like putting a Band-Aid on the wound. It is lowering your blood sugar, but it's not helping the pancreas relax a little bit and rest and recover and regenerate. That's another topic, obviously. So taking metformin would really not do anything in terms of carbing up for you. Now, metformin also suppresses IGF-1 release from the liver. So if you're taking GH, you might not get as much IGF release. So in essence, it might actually make you look flatter. So I would not use metformin. If you have a problem carbing up because your pancreas can't produce enough insulin and you're one of these people that needs to eat a lot of carbs, you should just take insulin. You should take a fast-acting insulin with each meal, a little bit, to make sure that you're absorbing your food. If that's the case, most people don't fit into that category. Very, very few bodybuilders I've ever seen that had to eat so many grams of carbs per meal that they just couldn't absorb it all because their pancreas couldn't produce enough insulin. Can it happen? Absolutely. But that's the right way to do it. Taking metformin is not going to do anything. And these are really two really good questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. And these are the kind of questions we get on a regular basis. So if you guys haven't joined the app, it's $29 a month. You get access to all my writings, all my videos in one place, easy to find. All my diets are there, off-season, pre-contest. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum, so you see everyone's questions, everyone's answers. And I even do a Q&A video every single week that's unique from Ask Dave just for the app members. So you have basically Dave Palumbo as your coach in your pocket at all times. We also put a workout up every single week. So great resource, very, very affordable. And I know we have a ton of members, so everyone really, really, I think, enjoys it. And we get these really thought-provoking questions. So check it out.
Speaking of thought-provoking questions, we now go to our Instagram questions. If you're not already following us there on Instagram, the handle is official_RxMuscle. Just a quick note, the New York Pro is in 2 weekends. Yes. We do plan on being there in person. I just spoke to Chris Aceto. He will not be there. I will be there. We're going to have Alone Powers helping us coverage as well. So we'll be grabbing whoever we can as far as, who's around, analysis, get some, some of the luminaries on camera.
I'm sure Milos will be there. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. And, of course, we'll have full contest coverage, interviews the winners, interviews other competitors there as well. And of course, everything going on during the course of prejudging and finals. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our Instagram, official_RxMuscle. Subscribe here on our YouTube channel. Hit the subscription button below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments, updates, and of course, our contest coverage in the course of 2 weeks at the New York Pro.
You should get Victor Martinez. He's a local guy. He'll definitely.
He is.
He's very good at analysis.
See, he works for another media outlet, so I don't know. I would imagine. There is exclusivity there. So,
oh my god, they're still doing. People are still doing exclusive stuff. That's kind of weird. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I look. Certainly, I can go up to him and ask him if you can get him on camera.
He probably is. Blackman's probably got him.
No, it's not. This is not a Blackman deal. There's another media outlet.
I didn't even think there was. I thought everyone just did whatever they wanted nowadays. Yeah, I can't even believe back to thinking back like 10 years ago, how everyone worked for like a specific agency and like,
Right.
I can't talk to you because I am with being paid by this person. And I said to myself, this is crazy. Like the internet and social media, everyone's all over the place. I don't even know how people can even be exclusive to anyone at this point. And sure enough, a couple years later, no one is anymore.
Yeah, I only say I imagine he's exclusive just because I see him doing podcasts with them. Okay. This past Arnold Classic, he was doing their contest coverage. So that said, I mean, of course, I could just go up to him.
Find someone, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if we can get him on, we can get him on. If not, there are going to be a lot of people there in attendance. Obviously, always one of the biggest shows of the year, and the show's only gotten bigger and bigger. And it's at one of your favorite venues. It's at the Teaneck Marriott, which is yeah, really, really cool venue for a contest. I've been to a New York Pro there before, the year that Nathan Diaz show won. I think it was 2018 or 2019, one of the 2 years. But nonetheless, really, really, I'm saying, I'm totally wrong. He won in Westchester. I forget which one it was.
I like Teaneck Marriott. I'll tell you why. Number one, it's very easy to get to. There's unlimited parking there. The venue's big. There's a hotel there. If you're in the show, you can stay right in the hotel and take the elevator down. I mean, it's so easy. If I'm helping athletes, I can go up and down. I love that venue. And I don't think they have it anymore. They used to have a really good Thai restaurant down the block. I don't think it's there anymore, but I haven't been there in a couple of years. So
no, but really, really cool. A very nice professional venue for, really one of the biggest shows of the year. So again, if you're going to be there, come say what up. Look forward to seeing everyone as always. Question about Lee Priest. Where did it go? All right. Sorry if this topic has been brought up before, but as things look right now, Sandy goes on to call him the mighty Lee Priest. So hopefully you're watching the mighty Lee Priest. Will we ever see him on stage again, or is he done with that chapter of his life?
I think Lee really wants to compete. I just from talking to him, I think in 2 seconds he would compete again, but he has that injury to his neck. Now, he did have surgery on it, and I know his right side is looking a lot closer to his left side, but Lee is a perfectionist, and I don't think he'll get on stage unless he can bring that right side up to really match that left side. And it's a shame because I know he loves competing, Lee. He doesn't do it because he cares about the fans or because anyone's offering him money. He just likes bodybuilding. He likes competing. He likes getting up there and doing his posing routine. So I wouldn't say never, but I don't think he's ready to test the waters yet, because I think he just is still working on trying to bring that right side of his body back into proportion with the left side. So.
Dodd's Bra, love the name. I've been on quote unquote prep for my honeymoon holiday for the last 14. I'm not really sure what he means by that honeymoon holiday for the last 14 weeks. Anyway, for the last 6 weeks, I've added clen and anavar, but obviously cannot take this through the airport with me. So I guess it's a very long honeymoon. Good for you. Will the effects of the anavar and clen stop as soon as I discontinue use?
Well, not that I'm trying to teach you how to be a rebel or anything like that or do anything illegal, but when you talk about pills and going through customs, I mean, you can literally put those things in an aspirin bottle. No one's going to bother you. I certainly wouldn't bring syringes and vials of stuff you have to inject into yourself. But I think for the pills, I think you'd be fine bringing them on board. If you don't want to bring them, I'm sure you're not going to notice that much of a difference. I would probably start tapering the clenbuterol prior to you leaving. So if you're taking like 5 pills a day, I'd probably taper down to like 20 micrograms, like once or twice a day, and then stop and go on vacation. But to be honest with you, you really could take that stuff with you. No one's breaking your balls for a little bottle of pills. And like I said, I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything like that, but there's really no way for them to tell what these things are. Once again, they're looking for like weapons when you go through security. They're looking for like cocaine and like real drugs that you're trying to smuggle or something like that. And to be honest with you, leaving the U.S. would probably be no problem. It's coming back into the United States. So what I would do is if you're going to bring them, bring enough so that when you pretty much when you come back, you've used them all up, whatever you brought with you, and I think you'll be fine. So it's really not a big deal.
BattleFit Kerna, if you take a fast-acting insulin as part of your protocol but want to take a nap in the afternoon, that it's not advised, correct? If you have a day off, and want to nap in the afternoon to enhance your recovery, then is it best to avoid any fast-acting insulin?
When you're taking a fast-acting insulin, assuming you're eating enough carbohydrates for the insulin, you're not going to really have a problem. So, like, let's say you took, for instance, 4 units of Humalog, which is a very fast-acting insulin that releases everything up front, and you ate 45 grams of carbs with that meal, because each unit of insulin will cover 10 grams of carbs. You should be fine. I mean, and if you did get a little bit of low blood sugar, you'd wake up. You'd feel like a little low blood sugar. It's not like you're taking a whole cc of 100 units of insulin and you're only eating 40 grams of carbs, and then you go into sleep and you're not going to wake up because there's 60 units on board or whatever, more than that. There's 90 units on board that hasn't been covered. But the truth is that insulin doesn't hit you that quickly. Now, there have been incidents, obviously, where people have taken too much and their blood sugar has dropped, and it's just a matter of drinking some sugary solution, sucking on a sugary glucose tab or something like that. I wouldn't really worry about it. Like I said, as long as you're calculating your carbohydrates properly. Now, if you're taking like a Humulin or Novolin R, which is like it's a semi-fast acting, half of it's released initially and then half in 2 hours. As long as you're eating enough at the first meal and then you set your alarm to eat, the next meal at 2 hour mark, you should be fine as well. And once again, if you do go a little low blood sugar, it doesn't happen all at once. You're going to start feeling a little low. You're going to get maybe the cold sweat thing going on. Maybe your lips may get numb if you wait too long, but more than likely you're going to feel hungry, and so you're just going to eat something, and that's the advantage of it. The only time you're going to run into, like I said, a problem is if you just take, like, sometimes people measure things wrong. They think they're taking 4 units of insulin and they're taking 40 units because they don't understand that the 40 on the insulin syringe means 40. It doesn't mean 4. I've seen people make silly errors like that. Those people might have problems, but if you're measuring your insulin properly, you should be fine.
Let's go to action figure, a topic that obviously you are painfully obvious with. Quad injuries. He doesn't specify quad tear. I mean, it says quad injury. I guess he means it from a general perspective. How long does it take for a quad injury to fully heal? But let's take it to the extent of a quad tear. What would you advise a bodybuilder that tore their quad?
Now, obviously, a quad tear that requires reattachment surgery, like I had, or Evan Sadapani had, or Branch Warren had, that is going to be a long, extended recovery, because then you can't do anything for the first 6 to 8 weeks, and then they want you to start moving it a little bit and then stretching it, and then you go to physical therapy. So that Branch Warren has got the quickest recovery of all time from a quad tear that I've ever seen, and because he competed after 6 months after the tear and won the Arnold Classic. His leg looked really good. No other human on this planet can do what he did. Now, assuming you pulled a muscle, let's say you're in the gym, you're squatting, and you felt some fiber separate, and we call that a quad injury, because that seems like what he's calling that. That could take 2 to 6 weeks to heal. I've gone to the gym where I've pulled a quad muscle, and I had a baby at the first week back. I just did some light stretching. I took a week off, and then the following week I went back, maybe did some leg extensions, maybe some really light leg presses just to kind of stretch the muscle out a little bit. And then the following week I try to do my normal workout, but light, super light, and just squeezing and stuff like that. And if that was tolerated well, the following week, usually by the 3rd or 4th week, even an intramuscular tear will be pretty well healed. The only thing you might feel is a little scar tissue in there. So when you're stretching or when you're coming back with the weight, you might be a little nervous because you feel that pulling in there, but that's just the scar tissue stretching out. So when you can handle weight and when you can't, because what you'll feel is a vulnerability there, and you'll know, what, it's not time to push yet. Once that vulnerable feeling goes away, you can go back to doing maybe not as much weight, but working back up to that much weight again. And so that's my suggestion. I think the person is referring to a quad pull or injury in the gym as opposed to a full, complete, tendon tear, which is going to be more extensive, obviously.
Let's go to Xanadu 667. Are adaptogens like suma and ashwaganda effective as hormone balancers?
I'm afraid to answer this question because I I know someone out there is going to have a nervous breakdown who sells this stuff. This, to me, it's don't waste your money on it. Okay, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I've done videos on them, and I've always been proven right. Okay, when something sounds too good to be true, and it's natural, and it's like legal to sell, it probably is. Look. There's not the only supplement that has stood the test of time for the last 25 years has been creatine because it works. Nothing else has worked. There's things that have come in and out of style. Just recently, they had these ecdysterones again, these like plant sterols that they were making a big comeback. They were trying to sell those as like hormonal, type stuff. It's going to build muscle. They don't do shit. They never did. They've been around for like 25, 30 years already. They've been every 5 years, every 7 years, they try to bring them back and remarket them under a different umbrella. This stuff doesn't work. Don't waste your money. I can't believe how many people out there buy these weird supplements and they don't take a good multivitamin, or they don't take an essential fatty acid supplement, or they don't take a fiber supplement. It blows my mind. Or they don't take vitamin D, which is the easiest, cheapest thing of all time. It blows my mind that people's priorities, they have no idea what to prioritize in their supplement regimen. And, I can talk till I'm blue in the neck, and a lot of people listen, and there's people who don't listen, and they still go out and buy a pre-workout and an amino acid product. And there's nothing wrong with that. I sell those too, but that's not the first supplements you should be buying. Every chemical reaction in your body runs on vitamins, minerals, and trace metals as cofactors. If you're not taking enough of the stuff in, and you're certainly not getting it in your diet, guess what? You're not going to burn fat and build muscle at maximum efficiency. Same thing with essential fats. If you don't take in enough essential fatty acids, when you're trying to diet, you're going to hoard fat. Your body's going to fight your fat burning because it's going to think you're fat deprived, even though you might be taking in enough of the wrong fats. So, when I hear things about these other things, do they work? Yeah, they might work to a certain degree at doing something, but they should be the lowest on the priority list of what you're spending your money on. And I know 90% of you guys out there don't have a fortune to spend on nutritional supplements, because you're probably spending a hell of a lot of money on drugs already, on anabolics and GH and training and gym memberships and food, and and you're working to try to support that. Don't waste your money on stuff that doesn't work. That's my best advice to you.
Let's go to Nico Cantemir, good friend of the show. The last week before the show, how many days deload and load carbs? Not all people are the same, but there are some general guidelines that you use.
For a person who's just going to make it, or I'm bringing them in, just on time, which is most people, right? Because you kind of peak them for the show. I usually, deplete people on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, they might get a little bit of minimal carb loading. And then Thursday, Friday, I'll load them. And obviously Saturday as well, the day of the show. But that's not written in stone, meaning that some people I'll deplete longer because they are maybe not quite where I need them to be. Some people don't need to carb up for that many days. And then other people, I never deplete, because if I deplete them, they're going to look terrible, because their metabolisms are so fast that for the average person, I would carb them up on what I'm actually depleting these guys on. So I've given guys like 250 grams of carbs a day on Monday, Tuesday, when on days normally I would give no carbs. And these guys still are depleted on that because their metabolisms are so fast. And then I had to carb them up on 400, 500 grams of carbs a day. So everyone's different. There's really no in stone rules. But I would say for the majority of the people, most of them get depleted Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then part of Wednesday maybe I start carbing them, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is carb up for the shows. That's standard practice, but it's not written in stone because not everyone's body's the same.
Take a couple more questions. Evan at large, I got some silly numbers on blood work. IGF 500 mg/ml, free T 680, which is 1.5x my 450 mg weekly dose. Your thoughts, and how can I interpret these? I think it looks pretty good.
You got to repeat it. There was so many abbreviations I didn't even hear what you said.
So yeah, IGF 500 ng/ml, free T 680, which is, he says 1.5x 450 mg weekly dose. Yeah, those are the numbers that he gave.
I'm still having trouble visualizing, but it sounds like his testosterone was like high normal. What was it, like almost 700?
Yeah, 680.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, and how much was his testosterone dose on that?
450 mg weekly.
You know, when I hear something like that, I have to believe that what he's taking is underdosed. Or maybe it's not like a long-acting testosterone like cypionate or anything. It might be like a propionate. He might be taking it earlier in the week, getting blood work later in the week, and then his levels have dropped because the propionate doesn't last as long. So something's a little fishy there. If I took 400 milligrams a week, I'd be like almost 2,000 my testosterone, because I took 100 milligrams a week and I was 1,200. So, you know, now everyone is different. But he seems a little low for the amount of testosterone he's taking per week. So I would test that testosterone with the Roy test kits I sell, and I would test it with the semi-quantitative test to see what the actual dosage is in the stuff that you're using. So, but I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if he thought that he was taking cypionate and anthate and he's actually taking propionate. That's a possibility as well. So check it out. You know, that's why we go for blood work. That's why we do these tests. That's why we test the drugs we take. We want to make sure that we're not wasting our time and our money.
Last question from Ray Ryan. Now, if I were to reference this, it was an interview with Nasser for bodybuilding.com, and he made specific references to you and Greg Kovacs. You know which interview I'm referring to, correct? Right. I don't know to what extent you've discussed this or reacted to, but he wants to know your thoughts on Nasser's comments on you from that interview. And I'll link the article below so everybody knows exactly what we're talking about.
Nasser wrote like I don't know if it was a 5 or 6 part article on like basically every bodybuilder of that era, like, you know, basically saying why he was better than everyone and why everyone was all fucked up. Basically, that, you know, that was his. I don't know if he was just in a very negative place, but that, you know, it was basically, that's probably what was Nasser thought of everyone, and he actually put it on paper probably because bodybuilding.com paid him to do that, which I thought was. I thought it was funny, even though, because I know Nasser and I know his whole shtick, because I've heard him talk about other people, how he thought that, you know, Dorian was, he used to call him Backzilla. Oh, yes, Dorian is just Backzilla. He only has one body part, and that is why the judges they will never give me Mr. Olympia, because Dorian has a good back, and they say my back is not as good as Dorian's, but he's just a one body part. He has no arms, and he, you know, he in his mind, he can tell you why he should have been Mr. Olympia and why everyone else sucks, you know. And, you know, he made fun of me too, because I think he was a little jealous because I used to do a lot of guest posings and everything like that. And I don't know what his real reason was, because to my face, and we would hang out with each other. He'd be like my best friend, you know. We'd hang out, you know, we'd go eat together. We would talk, you know, shop, and, you know, if I'd go to the bathroom, he'd try to, you know, pick up whatever girl I was with. You know, that was typical Nasser El Somebody like action. I just think Nasser thought he was like a little smarter and a little better than everyone else. And so I think that, you know, that was his undoing, basically, because he really was a smart guy, and he really did have he was a great bodybuilder. I think that if he could have just said to himself, you know what, we're all the same. You know what, my career was great. All right, I didn't win the Olympia, but you know what, I won an Arnold Classic, and I'm going to go down in the Hall of Fame bodybuilding. Let me continue giving back to bodybuilding by becoming an analyst, or I have my own show, whatever the case may be. He couldn't get over the fact that his career was over and that he had some injuries, and that, you know, and he just got really bitter about the whole thing. And it's sad, because, you know what, he did have a lot to contribute, I think, but I think that he, even with all his quote intelligence that he had, he couldn't get, you know, he was bit by that bodybuilding bug, and he couldn't get over that addiction to the bodybuilding thing. He wanted to be that bodybuilder that he was in his heyday. And when his time passed, he couldn't transition and evolve. And so I think he was so bitter that he was just basically would badmouth everyone else to make himself feel better about himself. And you know what the funny thing was? He's very funny. He was very, very funny. And you know what? I don't take things personally. So like, I can laugh at myself, but a lot of people were very upset about the whole thing. But that was Nasser. Nasser, it didn't matter if you were hanging out with Nasser, he would make fun of everyone else. And then when you wouldn't be in the group, he'd be with the same people that he just made fun of. He would make fun of you. So, and that's just the way Nasser was. Dave, I don't appreciate you casting these aspersions, but yes, you are right. I think everyone is an imbecile, and that was his shtick. But I do miss Nasser. I wish he was around. And like I said, probably if he was, even though he claims he didn't like me, he probably would be on my show every week. Just because I would bring the best of him out, because he had a lot of good information. He has a lot of good insights in the bodybuilding. If he could have just got past the fact that his career was over, I think he would have been really great. It's just a shame we lost him so young.
It's crazy to think. Obviously, I never met him. Passed away, I think, when I was in college. It's been that long. Yeah. But I have to imagine, from all the stories you've told, from everything I've read, heard about him, if Nasser was alive today, I don't think it's a stretch to believe he might be one of the most popular bodybuilding YouTubers on the entire whatever.
He would be too lazy to do it though. He would be like, I don't want to be bothered with these morons. I'm not going to argue with them, but once in a while you might get him on your radio show if you threw him a few bucks, type of thing. Like, he would think Ramy was like horrible, because he would be comparing himself to Ramy because they're both Egyptian. He'd be like, oh, I am from the elite college educated community of Egypt, and Ramy is from the imbecilic fishing villages, and and he would put Ramy down because he would be threatened by Ramy, that Ramy might be bigger and might have been better than him, type of thing. He would have hated that. So you would get like little squirts. But if you're right, if Nasser could have said, you know what, screw everyone, I'm just going to say whatever I want. I'm not going to worry about people making fun of me. I'm just going to go on YouTube and have my own channel. It would be the most popular, because the guy was absolutely hysterically funny, because he didn't even realize how funny he was. But he had a photographic memory, so every detail, he knew every detail of everything. Now, he made up a lot of shit, but he also, if you asked him about an incident, he would tell you every detail of everything that happened. Him and Milos were like that. Milos knows has like a photographic memory too. So, Nasser had a lot of data at his disposal whenever he was trying to put someone down, or you saw some of the classic interviews we've shown online where they were trying to interview him for like the Olympia people, and they have these women, which he did not respect women at all. And they were trying to ask him questions like how do you feel, or like, what do you eat?
That's not an important question. Yeah.
Oh, I will not answer these these questions are not relevant. I will give my answer. You will think it's as good, that kind of thing. Like, just shut the hell up.
Let me do what I have to do and get out of my way.
And that was just his personality, But love him or hate him, he was a great bodybuilder, and he left us too soon. That's the reality of it.
Truly one of a kind. That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Right now on the channel, all new episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio, where Dave and Chris preview the upcoming Pittsburgh guest posing. So obviously, you have who's going to be on the poster. You have Nick Walker, Derek Lunsford, Samson Dowda. Chris Bumps is going to make an appearance. He's not going to be guest posing. Right. But then there's always the mystery of Big Ramy and whether or not he will actually.
Well, Ramy will be there. Ramy assured us that he's going to be there. So
there you go.
He'll be there. Yeah.
All right. So that's going to be awesome. So obviously that to look forward to. And then, of course, yesterday's episode of the After Hours podcast. And then, of course, tomorrow, all new episode of Iron Rage with Lee Priest. If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.